Emus walking the streets like ordinary citizens. He's a big one too, this one. Today I'm going to document our time in Quilpie and our trip out to Ada Vale. Ada Vale, for those who don't know, recently got smashed with floods, probably, February, March 2025. And some of the devastation is an eye-opener. Quilpie's about 960 kilometres west of Brisbane and about 100 kilometres southish of Ada Vale, on one of the best roads you would hope to go on. I did say that the Silver City Highway was pretty good. This bitumen job out to Ada Vale is something else. Beautiful road. There is an alternate route for those that wish to bash gear up. I don't know how rough it is. I was just told it was rough. On the floods, the truckie in the corner said that Ada Vale had 600 millimetres in 24 hours just north of their location. I know as a truckie, I saw him get out of his Lowe's Petroleum B-double, and for the ones that want to complain about him being in a pub, he had a couple of soft drinks while he had his break. Possible the driver could have been from Quilpie, Big Lowe's depot in Quilpie, which would give him some local knowledge. Ran into him at the Nakundra Hotel on Nokatunga Station. Now, here we are at the town hall. If you take note of just how high that veranda is, and on that veranda is a shower. A little bit later, not too much later, there's a flood marker from the 2025 floods. Nico penned on the wall. It was a very special cloud day, and clouds are part of my favourites. Clouds maketh the photo. Bit of evidence of stuff going on, clean-up wise, and heavy machinery around digging out and putting down gravel, that sort of thing. There's that flood marker there, bit hard to see, but it's Nico penned on the wall, so it's that plus the height of the veranda. Lots of info on the walls of the town hall on how the town once was. I see a lot of people talk about there being too much info to read. Well, what we do is we just take a photo of it and we'll read through it later that night, and it allows us to cram more into the day, and we do like to cram stuff into the day. Schools, pubs, all that sort of info, cemetery contained here. We'll see a few of those sites where things once stood a little bit later on. I wouldn't hazard a guess as to how many people live in Ada Vale. The last info is from the 2021 census, and it covers the whole district. From Ada Vale you can make your way to Hellhole Gorge, which I understand is more for the more experienced four-wheel driver. I understand it's a little rough, so we didn't do that. From here we moved to the police museum, and there's nothing in it, but given the height of the floodwater, it's pretty fair to assume that it either got ruined in there or washed out and taken away in the water. Just outside the police museum is the Anzac Memorial, quite a good display actually, and that's right adjacent to where you camp. So you camp at the town hall, the police museum, access to the toilets and the shower. You can see old mate in his caravan there, getting ready to leave. There would be some outstandingly sensational dark skies at this location. We did get a bit of astro, not from here, but from where we stayed at Quilpie. I'll just tack that on the end of this production. Walk over to the pub, and they weren't doing meals. We already knew that. That would be nothing to complain about, because I'm surprised they were even open after the 2025 floods. So inside is a massive set of bullock horns measuring 1,730 odd millimetres across, and there once was a giant beer can out the front, now been replaced by a yellow water tank. It's just something that it's even open. Post that, I did understand they were hoping to be able to put meals together at some stage in the future, but that's really neither here nor there. Just in there providing a service, probably the post office. Some footage coming up of what the water did in and around the foundations of a building close to the pub. Bit of a walk down the street that the pub's located in. Note the height extensions on the Telstra telephone box. There really is a lot of devastation from the floods. Now down here, a little bit further, is the police building, and apparently we know the local copper at Ada Vale. Something to do with he was in Oakey when we were there many, many years ago. I did ask myself the question, for such a small town, why is there a police presence? Don't know. I only asked myself the question, and I'm not smart enough to answer it. From here we head over to some of the name-plated sites from a time past. There's certainly more sites than the ones we visited and photographed. The Adavale Mini Museum that is signed on the bottom of the telephone box once was a building and now no longer there, so assume it all got moved on in the 2025 floods. We are somewhat closer here to the creek/river than back at the town hall, but assuming due to there being that much water that large volume spread out deep and wide. There's a large Swallings triple road train heading by, the very lonely picnic table and benches. Certainly a number of flies keen to be involved in the filming and production of this. I even caught one in a still, one of those off the town hall veranda. When we're in Quilpie, we stay at the lake, which is a station stay on Lake Hoodraman. Adavale, of course, wasn't the only place affected by the floods. Quilpie, Thargomindah, lots of places devastated. The lady that owns the lake station stay did tell me the numbers of sheep, cattle and goats that they lost. The numbers were staggering. I have wanted to trial the Quilpie Bakery on each of our 3 or 4 visits, and each time it's been closed due to family reasons or weekends, which is fine, that's not a complaint. And this time we finally cracked it, and there was a story about the lady that owned it owning a Maserati or a Lamborghini, and she'd be one of the happiest souls you'd ever meet, perfect for interacting with people. But anyway, that was a true story. She does own a Maserati. I do believe the bakery's for sale, but it's been for sale for almost ever. Great pie, and I think we got sandwiches today. We went out to Adavale as well, and it has allowed me to continue the half-eaten pie series. I did say to the lady in the bakery in Quilpie that she wasn't charging enough for her pies. 2 pies like this, filled to the brim, for $11.50. That's $11.50 for 2 of them. So that was what lunch cost us. Oh no, we might have had a cream bun or something, but well under $20 anyway. Quilpie Bakery gets my tick of approval, and that's all that matters in my books. Wonderful information centre in Quilpie. Very helpful people in there with lots of information. There's an excellent sporting facility, showgrounds in Quilpie. That's where you'll find your dump point. No footage of it. It's just a very pleasant place. Well kept, well maintained. Quilpie once had a large railhead for cattle. I believe cattle still move out of Quilpie via rail. It's just more seasonal these days than the story I'm about to tell. It basically runs to 3 abattoirs in southern Queensland. I was talking to a guy that I know, used to drive trucks in the area, and he said they'd cart out of places like Bulu Downs and as far west as the Northern Territory, bringing cattle to that Quilpie railhead. 36 decks at a time in triple road trains. So that's, their bullocks, 36 decks at 20 per deck, 720 head. And he said they do that for 3 months. This rather extensive wall mural or fence mural is quite near the Quilpie railhead. There are plenty of other places to camp in Quilpie. Along the banks of the Bulu River, there's a number of free camping sites. You can camp on the other side of Lake Hoodraman, but I think you need to book in there at the information centre. There are no facilities on the other side of Lake Hoodraman, and there's another caravan park in the town of Quilpie itself. Now for the remnants of the obligatory walk around the streets of Quilpie, some silhouettes or cutouts or shapes in the street divide. It's actually probably the highway and the highway divide, depicting pretty much the main economic driver in the area, which would be cattle, sheep grazing. There's a bit of mining and gas going on as well. Quilpie Butchery, we bought some meat there. Another story of flood devastation. Spent this weekend's fencing and still looking for stock, but I think they're gone. Interesting story. The steakettes we bought, quite thick, and I see some come home recently. Gee, you'd have to watch them when you put them over the pan, or they'd quickly become a figment of your imagination. They were that thin, but not the ones from the Quilpie Butchery. St Finbarr's Church has these opal encrusted, opal tiled pulpits. Unfortunately, on this visit, it was one of those moments when I had the camera off when it should have been on and on when it should have been off. So lots of good shots of the floor video-wise. This is some photos I took on a previous visit where I've really entirely stuffed up the white balance. I'd have to go and find the original to fix that up. There are a few churches here. And to finish up with, I'll throw up the Astro. Quilpie was probably one of my better Astro nights. I got the night, got the morning, and looking east from Quilpie was some pretty dark skies on the night session. Here it comes.